So now we're looking at the students, the college university students' engagement. They're actively involved in collecting quote-unquote data or observations of children's interactions through play. And now let's take a look at the actual research that's out there that's going on right now that speaks to children's play.
Hi, I'm Ron Sprunberg, co-founder and CEO of Hi Mama. Welcome to our podcast about all things early childhood education. Today on the show, we have Dr. Bill Strader. Welcome to the show, Dr. Bill.
Well, thank you very much, Ron. It's great to be with you.
So let's start off with the easy stuff. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, geez, I love that question. I am currently in a very unique position in that I am the coordinator for the New England Symposium on Play. And in that position, I have opportunities to provide wonderful seminars, symposiums, workshops, presentations related to play and the development of young children from a variety of different perspectives. And I've been very honored to present this just this past year to over 15 different states across the country, both at the local, state, and national level. So that has been really a remarkable opportunity for me this year.
And you're also very involved with working with college and university students that are studying early childhood education. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing there and why you're passionate about that?
Well, that's another fantastic piece, for my life's work as being a professor of early childhood education, excuse me, and also the opportunity for me to bring my venture of supporting our future leaders, college and university students, to the state, regional, and national conferences. So, for instance, at the National Association for the Education of Young Children's Conference annually, we've had opportunities to have students from all over the United States and really around the world. We've had students from South America and from the Far East and from Europe, Sweden and Germany, and you name it. We've had them from a variety of different countries who are part of our student networking center, excuse me, and student activities that are related to future leaders at the conferences. So that's another big important piece in looking at our future leaders.
And why is this something that you devote so much time to?
Well, I think one, my own love of human growth and development has always, brought me to the point of looking at how young children grow and develop and learn. And I'm always excited to be part of that. As a matter of fact, Ron, I'm still a substitute teacher. Not only have I been teaching in college and university settings, but I go back into the classroom. As a matter of fact, the principal of the school just contacted me and said, Dr. Bill, you're going to be able to sub for us later on the week. And I said, no, I got a number of meetings, but next week I am free, so I can come in and substitute in the preschool, in the kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, because that's my teacher certification. So, and in saying that, I'm now looking at my new wonderful young people who they themselves are very interested in human growth and development and how young children grow and develop, not only in a college classroom, but they're also their pre-practical and practical experiences where they too are directly working with young children, actually in all of the courses that they're in.
And you also have a Facebook group, I understand, which is specifically focused to college and university students called Future Leaders in Early Childhood Education. And why do you focus on the subject of leaders and leadership with these students?
Well, I think a piece of it is that they're going to be going out into the field. They are going to be seen and be involved in working with young children and parents and families. So they do their pre-practicum work. So they're in ABC preschool program, or they're in a kindergarten setting, or they may be in an elementary school setting where these students, college students, are going to be working with children and families. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity. And, of course, they're also working with their cooperating teachers, and they meet with their principal, and they meet with, of course, the college advisors who come out to see them. So in looking at their growth and development, the whole piece of Future Leaders sort of relates to the fact that they're going to be graduated from college or university, and then off they go into their communities. And hopefully they'll be actively involved not only in their programs where they work, but also actively involved in helping to support families and parents and who they are as emerging professionals to help our profession grow and people recognize the importance of our work in early education. That's simple.
Awesome. And as somebody who's very connected to the student community in early childhood education, what are some of the things you've learned about, what those students are thinking? What are their challenges and what are their goals in early childhood education?
Well, I like that question, Ron. Thank you for that. One thing I know that the students really look at for them is the diversity of children that they're going to be working with, the settings in which they're working with young children, because it could be urban, suburban, and rural. They could be working with families and children and people in very, very remote areas, or they could be working in inner city settings. So the students are certainly interested in learning more about where the students are from, the children are from, and the families are from, and what are the issues and concerns that moms and dads and families have as they help to support their children's growth and development. So that's something that I see sort of immediately for the students' interest, but in our college students. I sort of keep this in mind, students, children, excuse me, sort of correcting and making sure I get my right terms here. But the college students, I think, are very interested in knowing who the children are, how they grow and develop, and what kinds of impact can the college students have as they prepare to teach young children. And I think that's always something that, comes up with everybody. Even my most experienced teachers are wondering, geez, I'm going to prepare this particular lesson or this activity or this unit I'm working on, which, by the way, has to do with international living situations and children from around the world. This time of year, that's something that comes up frequently. And so they get to learn about children who are all over the world and the kinds of things that would be important to those children. As a matter of fact, now we're even seeing, if I have connections to colleges and universities and schools that are around the world, so for instance, I've got friends in Australia and I have friends in Canada, of course in the UK, so we might be able to connect with those particular schools, and the college and university students can talk with other students who are directly working with young children and or principals and lead teachers. And that's really exciting to also take a look around at some of the other early childhood environments that are worldwide.
Yeah, that's a very cool idea of community across the students. Internationally, I think is important too, because of course every country has different models and approaches and nuances in how they're approaching early childhood education. So I think that's really neat. And certainly your point about the educators wanting to get to know the children and the families they're working with much better certainly resonates and aligns with a lot of what we hear as well. And of course, that's why they get into the field in the first place. And what about on the side of challenges? So if I'm a student, let's say, and I'm graduating from an early childhood education program and I'm entering the workforce and starting my career, what are some of the challenges I'm facing at that time, do you think?
Well, depending on, I often think, we think of the time of year, and it's really interesting. I think that's another real worldwide kind of situation that schools and programs are open at various times. And I know for us in the United States, it's interesting because you've got sort of the September to June if you're in public school, but our childcare community is open year round. And so the diversity of understanding the working settings and what those look like, our hours, the range of opportunities, the range of children in terms of their ages from birth to age 8, for instance, in the great state of the United, most early childhood teacher certification programs generally run from infancy through third grade. Excuse me, with some programs being kindergarten through third and others running, as I mentioned, the range of from infancy all the way through third grade, and that's their teacher certification area. So understanding that and making sure that the students have opportunities to work in all of those different age ranges, infant and toddler and preschool and kindergarten and first and second and third grade. That to me is a well for a student. And then coming away with my resume indicating that, guess what, I've had experience in all of those different areas and a lot of direct hours in working with young children as they are prepared to work with young children and graduating. That's something I think the teachers, directors, principals really look at to see what kinds of experiences have they had. It's not just textbook.
Right. And trying to get that diversity of experience, it sounds, is important too.
Absolutely. And so we would like to see and make sure that, again, if there's opportunities in urban, suburban, and rural settings, and that the students have opportunities to work on all three. I mean, that's not necessarily going to be the case in some of our college and university settings, because let's say if I'm out in in an area that doesn't have a real major urban area, well, I'm certainly not going to be doing any student teaching there. But if we can have opportunities in a wide range of locales, environments, settings, that's to the benefit of the college university students and our future leaders.
And how would they typically get that experience? Would it be through internships or placements or something like that?
Yes, yes. Again, many of the teacher education programs will have a variety of different places where students can work. Now you find that even on most major university and college campuses, the students have opportunities because for instance, University of Texas in Austin has an infant toddler program, has a preschool program, has a full service child care setting, has for instance, Smith College here in New England here has a setting where kids go from preschool through elementary school opportunities as well. So depending on where they are and where they're going to school, and we try to make sure that they have opportunities in numerous locations, preschool, Head Start, child care, public school settings.
Yeah.
So they have even after school settings. So for those who are interested in really working with children in the older age range, a little bit older.
Got it. Got it. And you yourself are also a professor of early childhood education. And so let's touch on that briefly, and specifically around research and theory. So obviously you're covering a lot of that on the universities and college side. The question is, as an early childhood educator, how do you find that balance of theory and research with practice and practical things that you're actually doing in the classroom when you're working with children? Are you finding that educators are striking a good balance with that, or what's your experience being as a professor of early childhood education?
Well, for me, when I'm teaching, for instance, if I'm teaching a course, let's just pick, for instance, the introduction to early childhood education, and I'm looking at a particular theory or a perspective or a view related to play. I want to say, okay, well, you know what? What's really interesting is this hands-on, minds-on thinking of young children, and children sort of looking at materials and then reaching out and touching and smelling and looking at them, et cetera, et cetera. Have any of you seen any of those kinds of things going on out in the classroom? And hands raised or no hands raises. And I said, well, what are you looking at when you look at children engaged in play? What kinds of things do you see? So now I'm asking students to sort of be observers and recording data and information about what kinds of things children are engaged in when they choose or select something to be engaged with or to play with. And so now I'm in the aspect of say, well, then let's look at this. So students, my 20-some students, come back to the classroom. They say, okay, here's where I am. This is what they did. Here's the kinds of things that they were engaged in playing with. And these are kind of the things that I looked at and observed. And I'm saying, well, guess what? This group of 20 students that we're in right now, we have collected some very interesting information or quote unquote data that relates to children's active play. And that in itself, they're like, whoa, we are? Well, yes, you are. And so is that something relevant and important for us to then, now let's go to the articles that are presently out there right now as it relates to play in the lives of young children and what we see happening out there. So now we are looking at the students, the college university students' engagement. They're actively involved in collecting quote-unquote data or observations of children's interactions through play. And now let's take a look at the actual research that's out there that's going on right now that speaks to children's play.
Awesome. So again,
how does that sound?
Yeah, no, that sounds excellent. And again, you're very involved in working with college and university students, and you're a professor of early childhood education, and you've given us some great tips around how to get that practical experience through internships and placements. Any other tips that you would provide to our future leaders of early childhood education that are starting out their careers in this exciting field?
Well, I would say one thing that they want to do is they want to write, it's a paragraph or two, their own personal philosophy. I think it's neat for them to look at, and we look at this as well, is that they've developed a particular perspective or view on early childhood education and being with young children and their own experiences in doing that. So one of the things I really like to sort of, we do it anyway. We have the students actually write their own particular view, perspective, the kinds of things that have happened to them over the course of their 4 years, their own personal statement about the importance of early care and education and how they fit into early childhood education and where they see themselves now and where they see themselves going. That's a very powerful little statement. It's just a one-pager or a couple of paragraphs. By the way, that's an incredibly important thing that goes along with their resume so that when they're sitting down with somebody for a potential job op, guess what? Now the director or the administrator or the principal is looking at the kinds of things that they, certainly their direct experience, but also the kind of thinking and where the students see themselves. I think that's a very important piece for them.
I love it. And of course, we focus on the importance of leadership with this podcast. And I think
yes.
in having your own personal philosophy or statement shows leadership about your forward thinking in the field. And I think it also is great to reflect on yourself and where your thinking is at in terms of early childhood education. I suspect it would probably also be wise for these students to go back to their personal philosophy perhaps every year to see if they've learned anything or if that's changed at all.
Absolutely. And that's going to happen. They will be doing that. The other thing that I like to make sure that for instance, the prospective employers look at is the diversity and the rich experiences that the students have had because they have worked. If it's a good early childhood teacher education program, guess what? They've worked in every aspect of early childhood, infant, toddler, preschool, kindergarten, first, second, third grade. They have experiences in all those age ranges with both normal and special needs children, children who have special kinds of considerations as they learn as well. So these students are not only well-versed in classroom, but, but they also show and demonstrate that they have had a rich background and diverse experiences over the course of their 4-year undergraduate education. And of course, as they go on to graduate education, it goes on beyond zebra from there.
Cool. Some great thoughts there. If I'm listening to the podcast and I want to get in touch with you because I want to learn a little bit more about what you're doing or have a conversation with you, what's the best way for me to get in touch with you?
Well, you can do it a couple ways. I'm on LinkedIn. That's one, which is just William H. Strader. I'm also on Facebook. Guess what? William H. Strader. So those two. I have, as you mentioned, a couple of pages that I administer in one. One is the New England Symposium on Play. So if you typed in New England Symposium on Play on Facebook, boom, you're going to see that page that is specific to looking at play in the lives of young children. And the other one just is, as you mentioned, it's Future Leaders in Early Childhood Education, college and university students. And what I'm excited about there is that I have faculty, students at the undergraduate and graduate level. I have affiliate leaders from the from a number of national and international organizations that are also part of that. And what I love is I also have students who share things that are from all over the world, the kinds of things they're doing. So that's particularly exciting as well. So I'll put up something that they are doing or an early childhood club or organization is involved in. And so I'll post that with pictures, et cetera, on that Facebook page as well. So cool. It really lends itself to potential future leaders.
Okay, awesome. And, we've been in touch for a couple of years, and personally, I'm super inspired by your work. I know that you go over and above to help develop our future leaders in early childhood education. So I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you, Dr. Bill, for all the awesome work that you do in this field, because it's some amazing stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm excited about where Hi Mama is going, because in our conversations, one of the things I think is going to be exciting is if we can sort of squeak in a little section or a segment or think about a new little area in Hi Mama that might speak to college and university students. I think that's another neat opportunity for students to sort of not only see all the engaging, exciting, interesting things that you're doing in the features and and early learning parts that you've got, within your site, but also something that speaks specifically to them. I think that could be really exciting.
I love it. I'm gonna when we get done with this call, I'm gonna go action that. And in the meantime, again, thanks for coming on the show. It's been great having you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Ron.
If you enjoyed our conversation, don't forget to subscribe for more episodes and leave a review. The Preschool Podcast is brought to you by Hi Mama. If you're anything like the thousands of teachers listening to the Preschool Podcast, you know how long it takes to fill out daily sheets, child portfolios, and lesson plans. And that's where Hi Mama saves the day. With an easy-to-use interface built by teachers for teachers, Hi Mama can cut the time you spend on documentation and parent engagement in half. Create and send beautiful daily sheets, photos, videos, and messages to parents in seconds, saving you time in your busy day. Podcast listeners can get a free tour with one of our community advisors. Go to himama.com and click the Start Now